In the Barenti Reserve in southern Madagascar, it's the most dangerous time of life for the baby ringtail lemurs. They're starting to explore and push boundaries, both physical and social. But there's much more at stake than becoming independent. For Zach, Tommy, and Maya, three youngsters from different bloodlines with different fortunes, the coming months will define their futures as adults. Each is on a path to a very different destiny. These are the ring-tailed lemurs of Barenti. 4 gangs fighting for territory. Leaders and losers. Vying for power. Their world is shrinking, and their futures at stake. Who will survive the battles ahead? It's mid-morning, and Crystal, queen of the Ruins gang, is leading her troop into the cool of the forest. Her baby Tommy is riding on her back. He's on the cusp of independence. Thanks to his mother's status, he's developed into the biggest and strongest of all the babies. As long as he clings to his mother's back, he's untouchable. But the clock is ticking on his free ride, and he's still got a lot to learn. By mid-morning, the temperature is approaching 40 degrees Celsius. The adults begin to settle and take a nap. This is the opportunity that Tommy's been waiting for. He steps into the unknown. The forest is a magical playground. Full of strange, new experiences. With every leap and bound, he gains strength, agility, and confidence. Tommy explores higher and farther from his troop than he's ever been before. He calls to keep contact, but nobody answers. He frantically tries to catch a glimpse of his mother. His overconfidence has backfired. Tommy is lost. Crystal and the rest of the troop are on the forest track. But Tommy has climbed too far into the trees to see them. With the troop making its way further down the path, Tommy is going to have to solve this problem all on his own. He carefully works his way back down the tree. And rediscovers his troop. Crystal knew where he was the whole time. Unfazed, she simply walks off, leaving a juvenile to comfort Tommy. Crystal balances the need to keep an eye on her son while letting him explore. Tommy is happy to be reunited with his mother, but today's adventure shows that soon he'll leave the safety of her back and go it alone, for good. Beyond the ruins territory, in the realm of the rival museum gang, another infant isn't quite so advanced. Zach is Berenti's youngest baby. He was born nearly 2 months later than all the other infants. His mother, Sarah, a low-ranking female, was the last lemur in the troop to fall pregnant. Zach is so far behind that his chances of survival are slim. Every other ringtail baby in Berenti was born within the same few days, so they all make the transition to independence at just the right moment to take advantage of the new fruits that will follow the seasonal rains. So when the other babies have switched to solid food, Zach will still be suckling from his mother, Sarah. He does have one thing in his favor. In his little body is a big personality. And he's eager to investigate his world, one small bounce at a time. Though he still struggles with which way round to ride. It's going to be a big climb for Zach if he's going to survive. As the babies grow, their development has repercussions across the whole reserve. Each troop will have many more mouths to feed, and competition for resources will grow. And unrest is already beginning to surface in the Ruins gang. Today, Queen Crystal is being her usual tyrannical self. When the morning's tortoise food arrives, Claire, a high-ranking lieutenant, pushes her luck. While Erica, Travis, and the other low-ranking members sit and wait their turn, Claire walks up to the food tucking in before her queen. Without a fight, Crystal chases her off. But this is a big moment. Crystal controls the food, taking the best for herself. By attempting to feed before Crystal, today, Claire has clearly overstepped a line. It's in every lemur's interest to advance their status, but there will be repercussions if Claire pushes too hard at a queen who won't back down. Unperturbed, Claire is back and turns her attention to Crystal's baby, Tommy, nudging him aside. And Crystal saw her do it. If Crystal wants to keep her power, she'd be wise to watch every move Claire makes from now on. As the heat of the day builds, so does the tension in the ruins gang. Heading into the cool of the forest, it's not Crystal leading the way, it's Claire. Crystal notices and swiftly moves to take back the lead position. She guides them into the shade of the trees. Everything appears to be back to routine, for now. The babies are oblivious to this afternoon's politics. For Tommy and the youngsters in the forest, it's playtime. But it's not all innocent. There's something much bigger at stake. All these youngsters will soon be staking out positions in the troop hierarchy, and their ranks are being decided right now as they play. Tommy is the most confident and the strongest in the group. But that's where his advantage stops. In lemur society, rank is not inherited. Tommy will never lead like his mother. Ring-tailed lemur troops are run by the females. Adult males are left on the fringes. Tommy lives a charmed life now, only because his mother is the queen. When her protection ends, so does his privilege. Suddenly, playtime turns sour, and a young female puts Tommy on his back. Eagle-eyed Crystal is quick to put a stop to the scuffle. This is the roughest treatment Tommy's ever experienced, and his first taste of female dominance. For Tommy, playtime politics have just become serious. This evening, Crystal is leading her troop up towards the ruin to patrol her boundary line. And on the forest track, potential adversary Claire crosses her path. Without warning, Crystal charges, driving Claire up into the canopy. She emerges, nursing an injured hand. For Claire, this could be devastating. For now, Claire will have to abandon any potential challenge to Crystal. Her main concern tonight will simply be keeping up. Her rule reaffirmed, Crystal leads her troop home. For her, keeping power over her Ruins gang is a delicate balancing act. She must cultivate allies, but stop them from taking power themselves. Claire may have set her sights on the top spot, but she's still Crystal's lieutenant. And that's where she'll stay for now. If she doesn't play a careful game, Claire could end up in a much worse situation. Beyond the walls of Ruins Gang turf, wandering down the Sisal Plantation Road, is a glimpse into Claire's possible future. This is Anita. She was once part of a troop on the far side of Barenti, but she was ousted and is now on her own. She's malnourished, blind in one eye, and has lost the protection of her troop. If life weren't tough enough, she also has a baby to take care of. There's little chance of either of them surviving long if they remain alone. Their only hope is to try and join another troop. And she spots the museum gang up ahead. But she's too nervous to approach. Troop females have even been known to seriously harm female outsiders and their babies. They spot Anita. She's caught between the desperate need to join another group and the danger of what might happen if she tries. This evening, the museum gang move on. And so does Anita. For the sake of her baby, another night alone seems a far safer bet. The following morning, the museum gang are deep in the forest, foraging for new shoots hidden on the woodland floor. But something sinister is emerging from the leaf litter. a plague of ticks. Crawling from the ground by the thousands, they infest the faces and ears of the lemurs. They're tiny and almost impossible to remove, unless you have someone else to do it for you. Katie is virtually tick-free. As the museum gang leader, she's groomed by the others in her troop. But for lemurs down the pecking order, they have to suffer. The lower their rank, the more ticks they have. And it's more than just an irritation. The ticks feast on the lemur's blood. And if too many infest a baby, it could die. Most at risk in the museum gang is little Zach. Thankfully, this morning his mother Sarah is keeping him tick-free. Always learning, Zach is even beginning to pick up the idea and grooms Sarah back. But he's not quite got it right, nibbling her toe rather than grooming her fur. The museum gang are in the small trees behind the museum. While Sarah is busy feeding, Zach bravely jumps away from his mother. And for the first time, he's playing with another, much bigger infant. He's made a friend. Socializing this early is highly unusual. He's still so small, he's going to have to take a bit of rough and tumble. But growing up with older kids seems to be accelerating his development. He's hitting his milestones at a younger age. Despite his late start in life, he has hope. For Zach and the other lemurs, the experience of growing up in modern-day Barenti will be unusual. Because this is not wilderness. There's barely any left in Madagascar. There is some natural forest here, but it's surrounded by agricultural fields and reserve buildings. It's also home to a thriving community of people who work the land, run the park, and live in the nearby village. So for these troops to survive here, the lemurs must live side by side with humankind and everything that comes with them, including lots of chickens. The museum gang youngsters are not quite sure what to make of these strange creatures. The chickens are just as curious towards the lemurs. Though not quite as clever. Baby Maya is daughter of museum queen Katie. And of all the neighborhood's babies, she is best positioned to be queen herself one day. She's female, healthy, strong, and her leader mother is the best possible role model. If she's going to realize her potential, she needs to learn about Barenti, its risks and opportunities. It's not just chickens that she needs to get to know. The Barenti Reserve is home to a whole cast of strange and curious creatures, all thriving here. The trick is knowing which are harmless and which are best avoided, like this wasp. And none of them want to play with Maya. At the water tower in the afternoon, Maya's still exploring and practicing her climbing skills. She's blissfully unaware of the danger she's in. A kestrel. She's been climbing towards their nest. They aren't trying to eat her. Maya is too big to be considered prey. But they will aggressively defend their patch. And the adults know not to climb here. This is a vital lesson for Maya. Always keep an eye above. Barenti is home to other birds with much bigger talons. Beyond the water tower and into ruins turf, Tommy is stealing morsels of fruit from his mother. The steady supply of food at the tortoise pen is giving him a privileged start in life. It's not only key to his development and prosperity, but it also underpins his mother's power and her troop's success. But the time has come for him to get to grips with solid food on his own. Tommy begins to experiment. The sweet taste of mango is like nothing that could be found in their forest. The faster Tommy switches to eating this food, the bigger and stronger he'll grow, potentially outpacing the other babies in the reserve. So Crystal makes sure that he gets his fill, chasing away others that encroach on his feast. With the young ones weaning, there are now more lemurs in the queue to share the same food. And jumping the line will be met with aggression. Low-ranking Erica now has to wait even longer for a place at the table. By the time she gets a look in, the greedy infants have eaten all but the scraps. And today, Crystal chases her away from even these. With this constant targeted aggression over the food, and pushed out by the increasingly hungry babies, Erica is now famished and weak. She's suffered more than any other lemur in the ruins troop this season. If she's going to survive, she has to do something to help herself. A long time ago, Erica started the ruins gang. She broke off from the hangars and became queen of her own troop. But now one of the oldest lemurs in Barenti, she's at the bottom. But with age comes wisdom. Erica knows that beyond ruins turf, beside the hangar, cordia berries can be found. If the hangars haven't eaten them all, a raid across the runway could be well worth the risk. Some of the troop still remember her being queen and listen to her calls. And with Crystal and her lieutenants occupied by the tortoise food, and Alinda and the hangar troop away feeding in their tamarind tree, Erica leads a splinter group to the edge of hangar territory. Only she knows where this group is heading. The coast is clear. Erica leads them towards her target. But at the halfway point, the rest hesitate. They appear to have realized they're far behind enemy lines, and their usual queen isn't with them. They can see the berries. And for these hungry renegades, the lure of a feast is too strong. Erica's wisdom has paid off, not only for her, but also for those that were brave enough to take a chance with this old lemur. But as they gorge, Alinda and her hangers gang are on their way home. Erica's experience as a former queen tells her exactly what to do when she's caught behind enemy lines. Beat a hasty retreat. Erica and her rebels make it home, with neither Crystal nor Alinda any wiser to their raid. The museum gang are in the forested section of their territory, looking for berries of their own. Youngest member of the troop, Zach, is now 3 weeks old. He's young to be running behind his mother Sarah on the high branches of the tamarind trees. And as his confidence grows, so does his appetite. Today, as Sarah tucks into cordia berries, Zach seems eager to follow her lead. The ripe fruit hangs within easy reach. Learning by watching his mother, he fastens his tiny teeth on his first berry. But he can't quite pull it off. He may not have managed a full bite, but this small nibble is a big step in the development of this little lemur. Despite his age, he's catching up to the other youngsters in the troop. He was an anomaly, but he's becoming increasingly accepted and is starting to assert himself. even leaping onto other adults. Thankfully, whilst the others are helping out, Sarah can finally get a minute's rest. Forming bonds and alliances with the older members of the troop is key to Zach's future. If he's going to grow into a valued member of the troop, he's going to need to learn from the best role model he can. And there's none better than Victor. This evening, he's scouting ahead of the rest of the troop as they return home. As a male, he's one of the troop's first lines of defense in case they run into any trouble. And tonight, he senses that something's up. The chickens are unusually noisy. He looks around. He can't see any danger. But the chicken's unease is putting him on edge. Something or someone is definitely afoot. It's the Raiders, Berenti's biggest troop, and they're feeding in the museum gang's trees. The rest of the museum gang hasn't caught up. Victor doesn't wait for backup. He scent marks, asserting his claim to these trees. But when the raiders ignore the warning, Victor attacks. He jumps from branch to branch, flushing the enemy out. Now the rest of the museum gang is back. Zach watches. This is his first look at what it means to be a male. Victor drives the intruders out of the trees. Right on top of the museum gang. It's chaos. Suddenly, Katie surrenders. The raiders regroup and look down on their opponents. But have they won? Victor doesn't think so. This is his turf. He gears up for a stink fight. And shoots his scent directly at the raiders, reigniting the battle. This time, the raiders retreat. Victory for Victor. Tonight, Zach has watched him play a starring role in the success of the museum gang. A lesson he's not likely to forget. Another long, dry day draws to a close, and the museum gang winds down from the excitement. But as they do, the clouds darken over Barenti, and the troop dashes for cover. Water is vital for the lemur's survival, but they certainly don't like it falling on them. To keep dry, they nestle together, but there are strict rules about who huddles where. The driest spot is right in the center, and unsurprisingly, this is where Katie and the other high-ranking females have positioned themselves, leaving low-ranking Sarah and little Zach on the outskirts of the cluster. Victor, who has just protected the troop, is left out completely. As a last resort, he tries diplomacy. He moves in to groom Zach, hoping that Sarah will let him nestle in. But she's having none of it. Damp and rejected, Victor curls up by himself. It's hardly a hero's welcome. And tonight, he'll sleep alone. For now, Zach is deep in the huddle, safe from the rain and lightning. But once he reaches maturity, he'll have to go it alone. Just like Victor. After last night's rainfall, Barenti is back to basking in the bright sunshine. The Ruins gang is happy to rest in its warmth. There's little point in wandering far in this morning's rising heat. Crystal and Co. know that there are leftovers from the tourists heading their way. The tortoise pen is a blessing and a curse for the Ruins gang. It's a constant supply of food, so the Ruins gang never goes without. But it's also the crucible of their political struggles, where higher-ranking lemurs leverage their power over the others. This is where Tommy will have to stand up for himself, or fall to the bottom of the troop. Today, Crystal is bullying others away from the food, clearing a path for her son to get to the freshest fruits. But this morning, there's a big change. Tommy mimics his mother's behavior. But one of the low-ranking babies, Jamie, is eager to get to the feeding area. He braves Tommy's wrath. Jamie is persistent, clearly much less intimidated than the other youngsters. As the adults take a post-meal nap away from the food, Tommy and Jamie start playing. But this time, there's real bite in their game, as if they know what's at stake. They may be born to mothers at opposite ends of the troop's hierarchy, but right now, on their own, none of that matters. They're figuring out who is the toughest. Their game takes a turn. Crystal is forced to step in and save her son, and Jamie retreats to his mother, Pam. Tommy has been challenged by the smallest baby in the troop. Tables are turning, and infants are beginning to stand up to him. Tommy has just discovered that he's not the strongest baby male in the troop, after all. On the other side of the neighborhood, in the museum gang, Zach, effectively the runt, has defied the odds just to survive this long. But he's doing much more than surviving. His confidence is obvious. Today, he's clinging on to his mother Sarah as the troop heads towards the sisal fields. And he takes the first opportunity he can to explore, moving with strength that belies his small stature. What he lacks in size, he makes up for with character. To keep up with his troop mates, he's had to develop fast. As he climbs, he's joined by a much larger baby. But Zach doesn't want to play. Instead, he holds his ground, even swatting the infant away. This tiny act of dominance is surprising for a lemur so young. Zach still has a long way to go on the road to becoming an adult male. But this is a sure sign that he has the potential to be a big part of a troop one day. By now, the gangs of Lemur Island should be experiencing regular downpours. But there has been little rain, and abundant new shoots and leaves have struggled to break through in the parched reserve. The babies are now well on their road to independence. They're eating the same food as the adults, but every new mouth puts an additional strain on each troop. From low-ranking Zach to potential leader Maya, this next generation has added fuel to the pressure cooker of gangland politics. And with splinter groups forming and raiding rival gangs' turf, territorial lines are becoming increasingly blurred.